it's Warren Hewitt. Hope you're doing marvelously well. We're here at the Fab Factory. The Fab Factory is Shaun Fabos' studio. And those of you that know this, it is Dave Pensado's home. So we're going to take a look at the studio. Hopefully they know I'm here. Hello, can we come in? They're hitting a button. Dun, 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 dun. They're like, who is it? What do you need? Hey!
Hey!
Hey, Shaun, how are you?
Good, how are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm good. And I think I pronounced your name properly as Fabos.
It is, yeah.
Even though it's the Fab Factory.
That's true, yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Let's take a look around.
Come on in.
You can follow Shaun. That's a lot more interesting than following me.
Is it? Okay, cool. This is our reception area. It's a lovely Stella.
This is beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, we have a big thing about art here. We like it to, as we're in these caves all day long, we like the inspiration, and all the pieces get changed out and are for sale. So we have exhibits twice a year.
Amazing.
Come through and switch it up. And here's the lounge that we have.
Oh, I like the Stevie Ray Vaughan with the 335.
Yeah, right?
That's awesome. I never even saw him play one before.
Oh, that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I don't
beautiful.
know. It just might be somebody.
Creative license.
That's correct.
And guitars, what is this?
Another piece of art that somebody got up, and the gentleman was going to move back east. So that is a piece that the studio actually owns because we didn't want them to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
We bought I think it's 5 in total. So.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. And the lounge is we have a lot of people who hang out in here and chat for hours at a time. Just because there's a lot of vibe to it, and we wanted to do stuff differently. We taking the wall and turning it into kind of an art piece.
Tell me about this.
This is Venetian plaster. This is actually done by my mother-in-law. She's a professional faux finisher out of Florida.
Wow.
And she came out to help me out, saved me a couple bucks here and there, and did an amazing piece. So, and then we have the kitchen.
Great.
Which again, we did things differently. We did the backsplash. We did rocks, and we just wanted it to be creative everywhere you went because, we put all of our energy into music, and nice to come out. And I think on some level, you don't even realize that your batteries are recharging, with all the rest of the art around and different creative aspects that are here, and coffee, soda, all that good stuff. The bathroom, we even did an alligator door, which is kind of unique.
I know, I like that.
She did that. She did it with mud and paint. I don't know how she did it, but
Really?
Yeah. She did a roller. She found some sort of roller that had the pattern, and she kind of did that, and
It's gorgeous.
we decked out the bathroom too with all that. And
Who's the skateboarder? Is that you?
I used to skateboard. That was actually my pops was at a benefit, a music benefit, and he bid on it you make donations to help with. I believe that one was children being traded in the world. So you put money to stop that, and we won the bid. And it's famous guy, and he signed it and all that good stuff. So I liked it. I thought it was cool, like a kind of a cool art keyboard. So we attached it to the wall.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I was a terrible skateboarder. I'm a classic English musician. I don't have an athletic bone in my body. I fall over a lot.
I skated a lot in my younger years, but I think I'd fall over a lot right now.
I actually feel it's very uniquely Americans that Americans can be good in music and sports.
And the sports.
At least when my generation in England, it was either or. These are gorgeous.
Yeah, lots of different artists, That was our key thing. And my sister's heavily connected in the community. She's been in it for, I think, the past 35 years. So she helps get me connected with some of these artists. And
that's great.
We love moving pieces. We don't even take a commission. Because
that's very nice.
Our payoff is we get to have amazing art here and, help us, inspire us, and, do all that. But this, that's not even a picture. That's somebody drew that with chalk. That's crazy. I walk by it all the time and I'm like, wow.
Was it charcoal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
You're amazing.
I like that atmosphere as well.
That's Mr. Bowie.
Yeah.
We got, here I'll show you something because you turn the lights off. The artist did something cool with the painting and it glows.
Oh, beautiful.
So we have 4 rooms here with 3 booths. All the rooms are designed for mixing, but these 2 rooms we think of more as production style rooms because they have taller ceilings. These 2 rooms are more of the mixing style rooms. There's just more treatment in them than the other ones. We have Jason's room we can take a quick peek into if we want.
Jason who?
Jason LaRocca is his name. He's a mixing engineer and so forth. Senor,
Yes.
we're invading your room with cameras.
I'm sorry.
Gosh.
Hey, I'm Warren.
Hey, Jason.
Jason, nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
likewise. Hey, guys.
So Jason's done, he has an amazing career. He's done a ton of stuff in all sorts of facets of stuff, from music to major motion pictures. He's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah, film scores usually, TV scores. I'm producing and recording, engineering, and mixing them.
Great.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Kinda like
fantastic.
what Alan Meyerson does.
I just did a
Everyone knows him.
I did a panel the other day. It was me, Gavin Lewison, Ruben, Cohen, like Dave Way, and CJ Avanston, and Alan Meyerson was at the end, and we're all talking, and the whole time I was the moderator, and I was so nervous. I'm like, we're all a bunch of rock and roll guys. It doesn't matter if it distorts, and
Yeah.
everything went wrong. And there's a guy down there who actually knows what he's doing. And like, after he left, we were all like, phew.
That's right. Jazz expert, trumpet
Yeah.
player, fully legit.
Yeah, full legit,
Yeah,
real
exactly.
musician. Everything's beautiful, and we're all like, it's fine. It's
The
distorted.
legit part, I don't have that either.
Yeah.
I'm from the rock
Oh,
background
okay, cool.
as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I have the tattoos and stuff.
But it's funny because I said that to Gavin afterwards, and Gavin's like, Alan's just the most regular guy. I was like,
Totally.
yeah, but it's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And everybody in rock wants to be on film.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then when I go to like a TV show and there's like a guy mixing it who's got like health benefits and like all of these
Well,
wonderful things, they all want to be
sure.
on rock. I'm like, no, we want to be you.
It's so weird because I know I say that about like dubbing mixers and other guys too,
Yeah.
where I see what they do and I'm like, what you guys are doing is amazing. You're mixing in Atmos in the biggest
Yeah.
theaters in Los Angeles on 2,000 channel consoles,
Yeah.
and they're like, we want to be you guys. We want to just work on music all day. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, you're
Like,
crazy. Yeah.
Come on, like you
Yeah.
guys are the ones that get the Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
We don't get those. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like we have a small part in
Yeah.
this whole process. But
Absolutely. All right, so tell me about your setup.
it's pretty simple, actually. Basically, I've got the S3 console and the dock, and I've got the Pro Tools rig over here with all my I/O and everything running to a QSC, which is kind of my rack mount console. Basically, this has got 64 channels of digital and analog in and out.
I don't know anything about this QSC.
It's pretty cool. It's got onboard EQ. It's got onboard compression. So all the speakers and everything are all EQ'd
Oh, I see.
by Dolby. So the room is
I see.
tuned through this, and everything that's done, all my routing for like if I want to listen on stereo speakers, so I listen on the 5.1, if I want to fold down from
Right.
7.1 to stereo, it's doing all the processing for that. It's like the master section of a like a Neve 88 console, like a big
Great.
film format console. So
I mean, I knew
it's like
QSC obviously
yeah,
from the power amps back in the day,
yeah.
but I didn't know they'd gone this advanced. That's
Yeah,
great.
and I think they use it a lot. I think in live applications as well. So it's pretty easy to connect on the back. It's just got a bunch of Phoenix connectors. But anyway, it's a pretty simple setup. I've got my surround amps in here, and I've got basic JBL theater surrounds and a Meyer LCR main, which is these are the Acheron speakers, and
Great.
I've got an 18-inch Meyer sub, and it's really kind of pretty stripped back. I've got basic outboard gear. I use the Manley for the stereo mix.
Yep.
A lot of what we're doing is 5.1, and so it stems and whatnot. But on the stereo mix for the soundtrack, I'll put that through the Manley, just to give it some tube love.
And then the distressor, that's for when you're doing tracking?
Yeah, so for basic tracking in here, if we're doing some vocalists or guitar player or something like that, or wind player, we usually won't use it on that. But for vocals, we'll use it into the distressor, and one of the pre's, we've got some Chandlers and the Grace 8-channel, the new M108 that they came out with, the transformerless mic pre's, which are really super clean and clear. And
Wonderful.
I've got my color choices if I want something more colorful. I've got the BAE, or I've got the Chandlers, which is great for an old vintage vibe.
We just did some stuff with Chandler. Well, I say that, I don't know which video is going to come out first, but
Yeah.
anyway, they do sound fantastic.
These are great. And
Yep.
actually, I had Chandler electronically match them, so they're all exactly
What is your? Do you use them on anything or everything, or what's your?
I love them on bass. So when I'm recording orchestra, I'll use the bass mics will go into these. And I've used them also just on the overall sound of the orchestra.
Sure.
They're great on anything with bass. I really like, just because I think they give that super extra bottom end to them that I really like, and they're cool on vocals.
Yeah, I mean they're quite special. They're quite special. They, even though they're tube, they don't have that soft thing. They seem to have a little bit of aggression.
They're pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're definitely very colored. And if you really sort of crank it, you can get that, of course, that revolution sound, the Beatles thing. So if you go out of one into the other, you can get that really over the top preamp distortion.
Sounds like you've been hanging with Adam Fiore.
Watching his videos.
Watching his videos. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then what synths? What have you got going on up here?
Pretty basic stuff here too. I mean, a lot of my clients are synth guys, so when they come in and they see this, they feel very comfortable and at home. But
of course, you've got a Marshall.
Well, this is the real tone comes from here, of course.
They're fun. Those are really fun.
The 2-inch Marshall speaker. But I've just got stuff here for mangling things. Like if I can show you what I've got going on right now. This is just, I've always got kind of a.
Nice.
I recorded some violin the other day, and we recorded it into this, and this is just a live violin loop. And I've just got it mangled up. So we'll take things and we'll screw with it and record it back into Pro Tools and fly it around the room. Just get weird with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just a bunch of sound mangling stuff for,
It's like playing with guitar pedals.
Getting a little bit out of the box, as it were.
Yeah,
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So I'll send stuff out of Pro Tools into here. Sometimes even full orchestra, actually, I'll send it in through here and we'll mangle it up and get it super gritty.
So what is this? Treat me like an idiot, because this is not my world at all. I'm not synth guy.
This is basically the Eurorack format, which is kind of blown up. And I don't know if you saw at NAMM, they had like a whole world unto themselves this year and last year. So these are a bunch of different companies. Like this is Mutable Instruments makes this really wonderful box called the Clouds, which is basically a pitch shifter and a sort of granular kind of manipulator. So it can take a recording and start to slice it down to just little tiny bits, and you start to get that repeat sound. That's
Nice.
So you can really get sort of mangly things going, and you can put live stuff through it, which is really great. So you can have a vocalist in the other room and do it in real time.
Oh,
and
fantastic!
Not have to, and I mean, it's not like a plugin. You could just have it like right there, which is really great.
You know what? Just to interject for a second, I love the idea that actually people are developing tactile things that you can use, because in your mind we all think that everything's just moving to in the box.
Yeah.
So it's great that there's stuff that you can.
Well, this is just stuff that you can't really. I mean, some of it is like this is just a distortion, which is you can get that out of a plugin, obviously. But things like this, where you can get into granular sampling and stuff like that, and really kind of mess with it. This knob is determining where in the loop it's starting from. So I can scan around and have it pick a different spot in the performance that it's going to start looping. And then this is picking the grain size of the loop. So that's like a really small, tiny grain size of a loop. And then that's a much wider window. If I want to control that, I can control that too. And then this is controlling, kind of starts to get a smearing effect where you get the loop starts looping over another loop and starts getting weird random things that you kind of don't know what it's doing, but it's doing them. So then we can send to it a clock. If we wanted to do that, we could send it a clock from here. This is what I do when Pro Tools crashes. Then I can bring in some beats.
This is cool.
Anyway.
We'll just be here all day, just playing with this, okay? We'll see you guys later.
This one
fantastic.
thing can
And
keep
who's
you
it made by?
occupied for it. This is Make Noise makes this. And
Make Noise.
yeah, they're an unbelievable I mean, these guys.
Where are they based?
I actually don't know.
We'll find out about it. There'll be a link
Midwest somewhere,
someday.
I think. But these guys really, really know their stuff. And these guys kind of are at the top of their game.
That's amazing. So T-Rackonizer, filter matrix.
Yeah, so this is basically just a filter with some reverb and delay choices. It's got distortion. You kind of can't really get anything clean out of it. So anything you put into it's going to sound dirtier and grittier. It's
Good.
It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's definitely
I see this in my very near future.
temperamental.
Any idea how much this is?
These are 500-ish,
Wow.
like $530 from Vintage King. I think
Right.
that's how much I paid for it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. And then this is.
This is basically just so I can get in and out
That's how
of
you
Pro
get in and out.
Tools. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
this
see.
is balancing it in and out. So it's taking Pro Tools in and then sending it via these little 1/8" unbalanced cables through the, different gear and then back in and then balanced back into
That's
Pro Tools.
crazy.
So that I can just snapshot something.
Are
and
these
then
TTs or they're
record
just
it.
no? They're just little.
No,
minis?
it's just little 1/8" minis.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Some of these
incredible.
actually can be desktop units. Like this actually can come out and just power off a 9-volt battery or a power supply.
That's amazing.
So some of these don't even have to be in these racks. They can actually just be standalone.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you got a Moog
And then
over here.
just a little Moog, yeah, a little fatty, just for if we want to add some sub bass to the orchestra or something like that. Like we could just throw it in really quick. It's just little things here just to kind of last minute mix additions that we might want to add to the mix, That's kind of
Fantastic.
the idea, yeah.
That's really
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Simple, very simple stuff.
And then you were saying you're mixing on this? This
Yeah,
is what you're-
mixing mostly on the S3. I mean, I've really got so much kind of going with the mouse these days that this is kind of all I need when I want to balance the orchestra or
Yeah.
balance something that's 50 mics wide or something like that. I'll get my balance going, and then a lot of it's just clicking with the mouse after that,
Incredible.
So this is basically it, and I can select and solo all my speakers here on the QSC, and I've got my different sources if I want to listen to just the wall and listen to the modular, or if I want to listen to Pro Tools, or if I want to listen to my different rigs, all come here, so I have input to whoever I want to listen to. So I can do everything all within reach, pretty much.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. What are the speakers again?
These are Meyer Acheron speakers. And the Meyers you'd find these at like the Sony dub stages and the different large mix rooms around LA. They're really great, very true speakers. The imaging on them is amazing.
Wonderful.
Totally top notch. Yeah. So I love them. They're really great. I can listen to them all day and not have a fatigue afterwards of my ears ringing.
Are the Dyne Audios that's your diehard rock and roll speaker? That
My
you know?
diehard rock and roll speaker. I
Right.
throw those up, and then if it sounds like what I'm used to hearing,
Right.
then I know I'm basically there.
I totally understand.
I've mixed so many records and I mean for years I've had those. So those are definitely my go-tos. It's where it all started. My picture from like my home studio was basically these. If I showed you guys, it was just those basically and a screen and my interface. Like that was my original setup. But the BM15s are amazing. I mean, I'll bring them to studios everywhere.
What have you got the iPad connected to in there?
So that's connected to Pro Tools. So if I want to take, something I'm working on and pan it around the back speakers, this is a stereo mix I'm doing, so I can't. But if I wanted to, I can just sort of pan them to the back speakers by using my fingers rather than a joystick or the mouse. So
nice.
I automate often on this, actually, if I want to start doing my swirly bits around the room. Yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's pretty useful for that, actually.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for showing us around.
Warren, good to meet you, man.
Good to meet you properly.
Thank you guys.
All right, Shaun, where are we going to go next?
We're gonna check out. This is room C. This is my room. We're gonna take
Excellent.
a quick look.
Après-vous.
All right, thank you,
That's,
sir.
that's the extent of my French.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Look at that. Wherever you go, you find a Perry.
Yeah, so this is room C. This room, we didn't get to talk about the last one. The other room, Jason's room, is a room within a room, 6-inch air gap all the way around.
Wow, nice.
When I built this place, I did it from the ground up. They did welding here for about 20 years. So we literally started from everything's in building, scratch up. Even we suspended the electricity so that they weren't, wall-to-wall touching. Probably a little bit of an overkill, but we did it anyway.
If it sounds great, it sounds great.
This room's a little different because this wall, there's 5 feet worth of trapping in the back. So it's a fake wall. And then as well as this front. And then it's 6-inch air gap. It's a double layer of drywall with green glue in between. And then we have an inch air gap coming off before we've laid our fiberglass down. And then we have the cloth on top. So we're running a 703 behind this. Clouds are the same thing.
It's pretty amazing. I don't know if I know anybody who knows their room as well as you just explained. Mine's like, yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, I definitely,
How long did it take you to design it and build it?
The design was about 3 months, and then the build, actually, I've been told we did really well. We started in January, and Dave was in his room by late July. So we hustled.
Pretty darn good, yeah.
And I think the city really delayed us probably about a month and a half. So we probably could have gotten there a little bit sooner. But at a certain point, I was just here 20 hours a day, just every day, just
I can imagine.
With everybody, making sure we're getting it done to the next thing, the next phase, this, that. So we had to get through the the green stuff, and all the lights are LEDs. There's no bulbs and all that kind of stuff. So
nice.
And this is the room.
So you did it right from the get-go.
Yeah, we kind of vibe was a big thing. Like I told you in the other room, like I really wanted it. We actually even built our diffusers, had them stained. Again, that was my amazing mother-in-law who did it. She picked the color and kind of, did all these different patterns to it and whatnot. Dave in my room, we've had him tuned. We have a standing wave at 43 hertz by half a dB.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. You can walk around in here pretty well and not really, have to worry about your sweet spot, because the whole room is sounding amazing. We can have you listen to something a little bit later, but
great. What are you working on?
Right now I'm working on a mix for a buddy of mine named Abe. This is something I think he's trying to pitch into a film. I don't know where you guys are at with it.
Just trying to get it all done.
Okay, I think we're on vocals right now, so
stuff like that.
My rig is a little different than the other one. I run Pro Tools HD, and then I'm running out of the Symphony, and I'm going into a Satori, which is summing me. It's also a monitor controller, which is really great.
I don't know much about the Antelope stuff. I know people love it, but I personally used it.
I love it. It's great. It's really amazing. So we're running out of there, 8 mono, coming into here summing, and then my 2-bus is a little unique and different. I run it out and I go into Shadow Hills, and then I'm running into the SSL as well and the NTI, depending on for color on what I like and what I don't.
Yep.
Back through a Clariphonic if I need it, and then it's getting converted back by the Burl digitally back in.
Great.
And then we have our master track inside that we're adding other elements of digital color to. So we're getting analog feel and digital, and then we're printing in the box. So
fantastic.
Yeah, we get some amazing sounding stuff out of here.
You got some cool stuff here. You got a BAE 73 MPL, which I saw also Jason had a pair of. The Marg, we all love Cliff Marg and his family. Great people, great gear.
On almost every vocal I use, I insert that bad boy. And then we're doing the retro behind you on our vocal chain as well.
Oh, okay, great.
It's a great compressor. Really like it and love it.
What's this underneath?
This is Dave's old NTI.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is great. He's used it for a bunch, and I snaked it and started using it on a ton of mixes, and it's
excellent.
It's got some amazing attributes.
We have some light. Can't go wrong with an SPX 90.
Nope, it's a great piece of gear as well. I mean, depending on what we're doing, everything in here gets used at one point in time.
What's this little mini Osborne? What is this?
That's actually. That is a boombox I bought.
I guess it was a boombox.
You know, Osberger's, when I got my speakers, he sent me his plaques because
Ah, I see.
these were last year's NAMM displays, not this year, but the previous year. So he didn't have plaques on them, so he sent me plaques, and I decided to post that and put that on Instagram, and I got a million people asking me, where do I get a Osberger boombox from?
I see. A million and one.
A million and one.
Yes, I fell for it. This is a great Hendrix picture, by the way.
Yeah, I
is a
need to
silent.
get it framed, but got that at an art exhibit in where is that? West Hollywood. One of my friends was.
Quick
showing
plug,
something.
Eddie Kramer told me the new album's coming out, and my wife told me today, March the 9th.
Yeah.
For the new Hendrix stuff, the new old Hendrix stuff. So you've got the Augsburgers.
Yep.
These are pretty amazing. So now you have them, Dave has them, Bob Horn has them, and these are like...
And Michele has them.
and Michele has them
So
as well.
we're almost a full facility.
Oh, wow.
But Jason got, used his that he loves.
Right, but he also says like he has to mirror, the way other people are working.
Yeah,
it makes
for
perfect
sure.
sense. You want to, if you're working with film mixers, and that's
You
what
have
they're used
to, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure in his world.
Yep, totally.
And we have the ATCs, and every once
Nice.
in a while we're still using the classic Yamahas.
NS10s.
And then still one of mine, which I, my early career mixing, which I still love the way they sound, is the Rock Unities behind you,
Oh yeah,
which I love them. They're
I have a
lot
pair of
bigger.
Super Rocks. I love them.
Yeah, they're a lot bigger overseas than they are here, but I loved the way they sound. I loved that they weren't ported, so you're getting a true bass that was coming through.
Mm-hmm.
I still use them on my references when I'm going through. So the great thing about that is you got 4 speakers you can pick from, as well as
great.
the summing. So
Very nice indeed.
yeah,
Yeah, I am partial to the Unities. Anybody who follows me knows I like Genelecs, but those are nice. They're very, very nice indeed.
we have the famous Buddha sitting in the corner, glasses up,
with glasses
with
on.
glasses. Gotta have glasses, As you can tell, I'm a big Rick and Morty fan.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but so a lot of vibe here. I do a lot of mixing and recording in here.
Great.
So we get a lot of
Do you have the singer sitting with you singing in here?
We have a booth behind us, actually.
Ah.
So same with Jason's room. There's a booth attached.
We'll check out the booth.
We just didn't do the glass. We just got Jason's installed with the cameras,
Right.
so you can kind of see, and then so forth. But mixing and a lot of we have producers. We had some people in here from Italy, an Italian rapper who's here for about 2 weeks earlier in
Right.
January, just for producing, mixing, and recording.
Right.
So
Right.
we have a lot of fun in here.
Fantastic.
'Cause I was like,
What do you reference? What inspires you?
classic rock all the way up into the 80s, like some of the stuff you're pulling out, all the way to modern age stuff as well. And I'm into EDM as well.
Great.
It's I wouldn't say that I stay in one lane. It's just if
Sure.
it inspires. It's cool. It's fun.
What's the phrase? There's only 2 types of music: good, bad.
Yeah, that's right.
So where should we go to next?
Let's head over to Michele's room. Head in here.
Hey.
This is the.
Hey.
Warren, how are you?
I'm good. How are
Good to
you?
see you.
Good to see you too.
This is AJ.
Hey AJ.
Man.
Are you doing like a special on Fab Factory?
We are doing a special on Fab Factory.
Wow.
Yes. Should be fun.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember going into your room in Sunset.
Yeah, it's not the
And that was insane. And this is just as insane.
This is probably even more because I have more space.
You have more space and more equipment.
Look at that.
Oh, it's crazy. It's wonderful.
Thank
Yeah.
you. How are you, by the way?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Yeah.
You're still working at Sunset Sound, son?
I am. I am not every day. I had a whole period, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. Were you over there about 3 years ago a lot?
Up to 2014. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
end of 2014. Yes.
Yeah. So I was being 3 like all the time, and you
Yeah.
had 1 pretty much locked out, didn't you?
I was in my 3 small spaces, and then I was using 1, 2, 3. I was using everything.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. It's a great.
Changes like time has like changed so much, and,
Sure.
and that basically you can do everything now by yourself, like without
Right.
recording anything. Actually, it's weird. And then music has changed so much.
Right.
Yeah.
You've gone for it on the keyboards, I can see.
Yeah, for sure.
So basically,
Yep.
a lot of Euro modular synthesizers. So
Right.
I mean, the probably the most like popular standard like in the last 10 years.
That's
but
what I hear.
also some 5U from Macbeth, which is a Scottish guy remaking like the Moog 5 units. So as you can see,
wow.
it's 5 units.
Yeah.
But it mimics like the original 901 oscillators and then all
Mm.
those from the 70s. Then we have a Circlone sequencer, very hard to get, like 1.5 like year to pre-order this. Like
Oh, dear.
the waiting list is crazy. And Afex Twin is using this, a lot of our electronic artists. So basically you don't need the computer anymore. You can sequence everything inside this. You have like 16 tracks plus on top of that infinite number of like patterns, and you can create songs and everything. And the cool thing is that you interface this with a D25 inside a module. So now you can control from that sequencer all the modular. So you basically get 8 different CV and 16 different gates. So let's say you want to do a drum machine or something, you can do it from there. That's just connect the patch cables to whatever you want.
That's fantastic.
So that's crazy.
Yep.
Another cool thing here is this polyend sequencer, 32-step sequencers for 8 tracks made in Poland, actually.
Oh,
So
great.
they call themselves polyend. And
My
then
wife's
they play.
Polish.
See, these guys are the same guys doing the Perk Pro, which is basically those beaters connected to real drums,
Right.
where you can basically play drums just sending MIDI notes.
Oh, wow.
And I have it in the vocal booth. It's disconnected, but it's crazy because you can send you can quantize, you can do whatever you want, and then those beaters they just play the part real time, synchronized with Pro Tools or whatever.
Amazing.
You want. And then a lot of pedals, amplifiers, and then Matrix Brute, which is a cool new synthesizer from Arturia. Basically, their view of a Minimoog. So the cool thing is that the usual 3 oscillators, 2 filters, but the cool stuff here is the matrix. So you can choose what the metric is doing. In this case, it's just modulation. So you can modulate every parameter into every other parameter, but it can be also a sequencer. So it becomes a sequencer. So you just input notes here, input gates here, but it can also be presets. So you can just use this to select presets. It's smart because, it's analog. The effect side is purely analog, so BBD delays and then basically using analog chips, but with digital memory, so you can save presets. So
Wonderful.
Best of both worlds.
That's amazing.
Classic Minimoog here from '79, probably this one. The remake of the Two Voice from Tom Hoberheim. Classic Kronos, Korg. You always have to have a sample-based keyboard in your arsenal, and then something you are super familiar with.
Oh, yes. Beautiful collection of guitars.
Some of my guitars, and
Yeah.
Tim Pierce loves some of this. He uses sometimes the
Such
custom,
a
Les
gorgeous
Paul.
color.
Yeah.
Is that a TV yellow color, I suppose?
That's the Randy Rhoads.
Oh, the Randy
So
Rhoads,
it's
right.
like a reissue, and it's
Yeah.
it's pretty much like what he was using. And then
Gorgeous.
the Johnny Marr remake of the Mustang.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty well made. He went through 1.5 years just to make sure that everything was exactly like his guitar he was using in the 80s. Then just a normal no-caster that I bought with Michael Landau at the place what's the name? Truton.
Truton, yeah.
And then on L5 I bought in Italy, and then a wonderful Jets Master that Landau suggested to buy exactly that model. And some bases and everything. And then we have a master build Stratocaster right there.
Great.
That I bought in Italy. A lot of toys.
Lots of toys.
Lots of
yes.
toys coming from everywhere in the world, from
Oh, I love this.
those boutique from Roland.
Yeah.
Which
I didn't realize they'd remade these.
they remade the 808. They remade the SH01, which
I
is
know.
now the 101, which now they call it SH01.
Yeah.
And they remade it really, really well. They're digital, so they're not analog,
Right.
but they in some way model the transistors and the chips inside. So
Great.
it sounds exactly like those,
Perfect. I love this little 808, or they call it the 08 now.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And I love this guy from England that made this
Very smart.
wooden enclosure. So it's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's very smart.
And then Vintage Vibe, which is the recreation of the Rhodes. These New Jersey companies doing recreation of clavinets and Rhodes. So this is their version. This is exactly what Stevie Wonder is touring with. So he's touring with that Rhodes and that. It's impossible to see, but this is actually the recreation of the clavinet. It's wonderful, beautiful instrument. See,
Oh, that's
And
gorgeous.
with everything with the wah. It's an active circuit, so
Yeah.
basically you have the pre inside already.
Beautiful.
Not the common problems that an old clavinet,
Yep.
exposes. Obviously all the tuners here, and what else?
Well, I always found with clavinets, they were just always noisy.
Yeah, and this is not noisy,
Yeah.
and that Rhodes is not noisy.
Yeah.
On top of that, they included an active circuitry.
Mhm.
On top of that, they included like a send and a return for pedals. So
Nice.
you have now finally an insert for pedals without any noise.
Right.
So it's like the dream of every like
Yeah.
fan of Rhodes.
Exactly.
And then System 15 Moog, the reissue of the old 70 System 15 and 35
Yeah.
and 55, this one exactly,
Yeah.
which basically comes, I think it's only 200 of this in the world. There's some kind of number or serial number.
Gorgeous.
It's only 200 of this, and then there's only 35 of the 35s and only 55 of the 55s. And this is synthesizer.com, a company that specializes into reissuing Moog parts.
Yeah.
That's remaking the sequencer that was exactly like the one they were using in the 70s. So basically, it seems almost like matching perfectly, but it's two different companies.
Oh,
This
oh.
is Moog Music and this is synthesizer.com.
And what's the Roland above?
The Roland. This is basically the recreation of the 808, 909, and 707, all in one box,
All in one box.
made in digital technology, but sounding great. And then that's an Italian semi-modular synthesizer from this company called GRP.
Is it based on the Korg one?
No, that's still based on the Moog. So it's
Oh, it's
still
based
three
on the Moog,
oscillators,
okay, right,
still
right.
everything. But the cool stuff is they have a sequencer here.
Yeah.
That can be 8 steps or 16 steps. So
Yeah.
you decide you can split it in two, or you
Yeah.
can. And the cool stuff is basically being semi. It means that I can forward oscillators to filters without patching physically.
That's
So instead of having, you have a small patch bay here, but see, all these knobs means where you want this to be modulated to, or where you want to send an oscillator to, and the mixer is pretty big in size. So you have 8, you have all the sub oscillators here and all the normal oscillators here. So it's pretty cool because you don't have to actually patch the thing, and it sounds gorgeous actually. By the way, this is the reissue of the original keyboard they were using for the System 15, so you can actually play. Oops.
Yep.
So see, you move and you destroy everything. There's too much.
You've always had a lot of gear though. When you were over at Sunset, you had a lot of gear.
I had a lot of gear, but I was so constrained, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
And then now it's a little bit bigger actually here. And all that side is just compressors that you're very familiar with, and then equalizers, and then distortion. I just quickly...
What's this?
That's a neo-analog IoT Core 3, which is like something that it's an envelope follower, a distortion device, and a filter device.
Wow.
So it's like something like a Sherman filter bank, but but much more, I would say, evolved, because the cool thing, having the envelope follower at the beginning, you can trigger whatever the filter is doing later with sound. So depending on the threshold you set, it's really smart. Then I have a lot of gear of this guy. You probably know Jeff Turzo, Overstayer.
Stuff is fantastic.
I love him.
People are
I love
loving
whatever
his
he's
stuff,
doing. So that's a VCA compressor. This is the MAS, so the distortion device that I use for mastering. And this is actually his newest thing that now he's going for with another name called Framework Devices, Overstayer. And this is basically what he calls the modular channel. So in 2 units, you actually have 2 pre's, 2 filters, 2 similar synth filter with resonance and cutoff, equalizer, compressor, distortion, all parallel. So you can have the parallels here. It's pretty smart, the guy, And these are all my inserts for my mastering setup, but they also double down as my recording channels. So when I switch one, when I keep in the insert 1, I can choose, instead of going line in, I can go microphone, and basically I got the input from my Mali Mac Mate. So I can basically get all the U47 or whatever I have in the vocal booth, and I can route that microphone into whatever pre I want. So basically both the retro, or I can use my recreation of the Neve from Heritage, or I can use my Tutti, very well.
Oh yeah.
Or I can use the La Chapelle. So I chose on purpose 4 very different pre's, so to have the typical valve or the typical solid state, or all the 60s that with
very few headroom, so to use it like almost like as a distortion device. And the common output of the MicMate goes directly into one of the input of this, and I can bypass, so hardwire bypass. So this doesn't do anything to the sound, but I can use all my mastering chain for recording. So I can use the shadow hills instead of using, in my mastering chain, just on the left channel on my microphone. So it's a pretty smart way of using the best converter they have, which is the JCF Latte right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the guy. He's in North Hollywood.
Yeah, I hear amazing things about
Pretty
it.
incredible, and especially transparency wise, and so that doubles down both as a mastering converter and also as my main recording converter.
Hey, what do you think of the DigiGrid?
It's the greatest revolution. I mean, they didn't invent it. It's basically based on Dante, but the way they implemented with all the plugins, the DSP that you can basically with no latency apply while recording, and the easiness of just connecting another interface there with just one Ethernet cable, and then deploying different. I'm actually growing more my DigiGrid side than my HDIO side.
Interesting, because I'm talking to him about using it. So
trust me, I have an IOX here. Yeah. So look, the interface is here, and basically you don't even see it, and it sounds great for what it is. I mean, it's not even $1,500 and 12 inputs, 6 outputs. Sounds great. So for all my synthesizer you see here, then and they are coming out with a lot of new boards that you can plug in whatever mixer or whatever like other interface you have. Like Apogee just came out with the Symphony 2 with a SoundGrid interface. So converting everything into SoundGrid means that you can still use it in Pro Tools, you can do whatever you want, but you're ready to be open to every other DAW you want. So we know that our main problem using Avid products that then we can't use our HDIO easily with a Logic without the limitation of 32 inputs. So with a SoundGrid system, everything can be seen by everything.
That's great.
So, and not only that, if you install drivers, this is a PC actually, so it's a PC laptop, very powerful laptop connected to this. Once I install the SoundGrid driver, I see all the outputs of my DAW of choice into Pro Tools without doing anything. It's just a matter of like firing up the SoundGrid and patching it. See, I see these are all my inputs, these are all my outputs, and I just patch whatever I want. So I see Mac Pro here, I see the PC here, and I just patch whatever output and whatever input I want with just one Ethernet cable, not even having any SoundGrid connected to this. So you just need to have one server in the network, and then how many interfaces you want. But on top of that, if someone comes with a Logic on a laptop and you connect it with an Ethernet, he can send you up to 64 outputs from his Logic to your Pro Tools without doing anything.
That's amazing.
It's super smart. Because
really
there's a lot of people that can't say, you have to mix this, and we have to convert. No, we just plug in, you see all the outputs coming in. You can choose the stems, it's pretty smart. And
I'm excited. I mean, I'm talking to him about it, and
look
now,
and the mixer. So basically, you can go through the patch bay.
Yeah.
So it's a direct connection that doesn't go through the mixer. But once you put the mixer into the play, basically you choose here your input. So see, these are all my interfaces.
Yeah.
And then on route you choose your output. So basically now there's no output I can choose, and you can put plugins. And the plugins are totally no latency. So and it's not only limited to waves, because now there's Sonox that's compatible. There's Plugin Alliance that's compatible. So look, I put this here, and not only it opens in 1 second, but it's even like something like Abbey Road, which is very taxing. So DSP is still 0. So basically here, before hitting like 80%, I think you have to instantiate something like 200 or 300 plugins.
Wow.
So the DSP is very powerful. It's an i7 actually. They use an i7 as a DSP, and no latency. On top of that, it's like having an Universal Audio Apollo. So you record into Pro Tools using plugins before hitting Pro Tools.
Wow.
So it's smart. If you have like a drum machine and you want to get a pull tech, you do it there before hitting Pro Tools, which is, to me, is super smart, and no latency, not perceivable latency. And another cool thing they did with this is that you can easily route, before hitting Pro Tools, a channel into an aux. So you can create your own auxes here with reverb. So you can basically make your own virtual mixer before committing to tape, let's call it, or to Pro Tools.
Yeah. I still say tape. I still say.
Yeah, me too. Yes, I don't- even if I mean, I use probably tape only for 2 years, but still.
Well, we all say print.
Yeah, print. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it's like.
So this is like SoundGrid is like a cool approach, and I think that not only Apogee but someone else did recently a new board. Oh, yeah, even for those Behringer products, which are basically based on Midas, Midas technology.
Yeah.
That's actually running a board with SoundGrid inside, so I can see all the inputs coming from the stage box that I have into Pro Tools, skipping the summing, skipping everything.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. There's like one or two things you really have to know, like choosing the right router.
Right.
Because if there's a list of like approved routers.
Right.
Because if you don't have the right one, you can hear pops and clicks, and you will go crazy.
Yeah.
But once you get the right one, nothing. Like it clocks this. It's able to clock the system through Ethernet. So this, I don't have any word clock connected. It's clocked through Ethernet. Not only it sends audio, but it sends also clock. I don't know how they do it. It's like some kind
That's amazing.
So look, if you go
it's all
here,
using Dante.
Yeah, just using that. So everything is locked, everything clocked. So this IOX, if I go here, and it's only connected through Ethernet and audio, analog audio. But still, if you go clock, see, sync over Ethernet, 44.1, sync OK, sync over Ethernet. Smart.
It's amazing.
Smart.
That's really, really cool.
And then you have all your, controls here, like for the and everything is always is a preamp, so it's smart. 12 preamps, and they sound pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like for $1,500, I was like comparing to Apollo. I mean, it sounds a little bit better.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what does it have a selection of plugins that come with it?
It's connected to your Waves account.
Waves account,
so
okay.
I'm not sure. I already had like 3 Mercuries.
Sure.
So once you have a Mercury, and especially if you have one of the old TDM ones,
Sure.
it comes automatically. They give you
That's
the
good, because
option
I have an old TTM.
upgrading the TDM to a SoundGrid. So
Right.
without spending any money, you're just gonna convert to everything SoundGrid. Because I think if you don't have
That's
like
wonderful.
an old Mercury, you have to pay something, not crazy amount
Yeah.
of money, but still. So now basically everything that Waves does, it's automatically SoundGrid.
Oh, it's amazing.
No, plus look at this. Something. How many years you don't see this? Look, I'm into DSP, okay?
Yeah.
And now what do you see? You see Waves onto AX DSP. So basically they made finally a one way to access the DSP portion of the server through a AAX DSP plugin on Pro Tools. So basically now, whatever I put here, it's DSP. And it goes onto the, and I can create chains of everything. And it's no latency, no taxing on CPU. So you can put whatever you want and go and go and go.
Oh, I love it.
Look,
Yeah.
effect, whatever you want. And as you can see, this DSP is going a little bit up, but Pro Tools will never suffer.
Yeah.
You can set like Abbey Road plates, which are a little bit taxing. You can put like 10 of those, 20 of those.
Yeah.
And it's still, look, and if we do this, let's get rid of this AQP. Look, so delay compensation, only 309 samples, considering we put like 4 plugins.
Yeah.
So it's almost like TDM time,
Yeah.
Because TDM were usually 10, 20, 40 sometimes.
Sure.
So you can basically go back to that.
That's amazing. Well, thanks ever so much for showing us around. Oh, wait there, before we go.
Augsburgers,
Speakers. Talk about speakers.
So Augsburgers, I
Yeah.
mean, I was lucky enough to, meet Dave in the studio. And one of the main reasons I actually got, and I was very close to signing a lease with Capitol Records to grab one of those production rooms inside.
Yes, I know the
But
room.
then when I Ellis Sorkin told me about Fab Factory, I came here and I met Pensado, and I was so in love with the vibe of the place, with the vibe of his studio.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't say no. And he introduced me to Augsburgers because I
Dave
know all the
Malaport,
Augsburgers
yes.
from Sunset Sound.
Sure.
And so I met Dave, and he actually, I think through Vintage King, they gave me like to try for 1 or 2 months a pair. Actually, this model, but not this particular, exact speaker. And I fell in love. I mean, these are the Duo 8 with the sub 12 speaker, the sub 12, subwoofer. But Dave has the 115 with the sub 18, and every one of us has like some Augsburgers. Shaun has like the Duo something, Duo 12 maybe.
I was just listening in the other room. Sound fantastic.
They sound great.
Yeah.
And you know what? The lower you, because I'm getting so old that I can't listen to more than like 95, So I'm constantly mixing up, because I have the Grace 905, so I can see the pressure.
Yeah.
So I'm always around 82, 83, which is pretty,
Sure.
not loud, pretty quiet.
Well, thank you ever so much.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks for your time.
No problem.
All right, what are we going to go next?
We are gonna go see the famous Dave Pensado.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, he gets
Dave the
around.
Rave Pensado.
Dave the Rave Pensado.
And there's a Phil lineup. Look at that. There he is, Dave the Rave Pensado. Polishing his Grammy.
guys, what's up?
Look at that. Whoa, whoa. Hey.
caught me.
Hey.
Yeah, see if that's good. Oh, well, you don't polish yours?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Because mine's just a plaque that says nominated. It doesn't actually, it doesn't got a, yeah.
I can tell you where to buy them.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
I don't actually have one.
That's
So how the
cool.
devil are you? It's
Yeah,
been the
you know
last
what?
30, 40 seconds since I saw you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm blessed. I mean, you've
Good.
toured the entire spot, and you saved
have.
my place last because it's the coolest spot.
It is the coolest spot.
building.
That's what we heard.
So you know how wonderful it is here. I'm sure Michele said he just can't wait to come here, and that's the way I feel. I just can't wait to come here. I don't know where else to go
Wonderful.
other than here to have the same.
Well,
Yeah, it makes us comfortable.
absolutely. The guys that are with me are all like in love with the lounge and didn't actually wanted to take naps and just relax in there. And David, who's filming, is actually an artist
Dave.
himself.
Oh, cool.
So he was really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
Good to see you, buddy. Really.
good to see you too. What I will say, the overriding thing I'm getting is obviously it's a great space that everybody loves.
It's creative. It
Yeah.
enhances your creativity.
Wonderful.
If you
But-
ain't got none, you're in trouble. But if you got creativity, come here.
But I'm not getting paid by Dave Malapore, but everybody's raving about the speakers.
Oh yeah, mine are special.
Yours are special.
Yeah,
Huh?
they're metallic Ferrari silver.
Metallic Ferrari
mo-
silver.
They're silver, metallic, and Ferrari. Just combine those in three
Right.
words and some. Yeah, Dave really went out on these speakers. I love them.
Fantastic. I've known Dave for years, and then
Yeah.
of course John Crivet,
Yeah.
ex-president of AES, is now working with him, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, the neat thing about these speakers and the ones in Shaun's room is you can turn them down and they just turn into near fields. Like they don't Fletcher Munson you. So if the curve is here and you turn some speakers down, you get this.
Yep.
But these just come down like that.
Michele was doing it. The bass just stayed in the same
Yeah,
place at any
yeah.
volume. Didn't suddenly come up and blow your head off, or
Yeah.
didn't disappear. It just was there the whole time. I agree.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about interviewing you today.
Do it.
Okay. So when did you stop beating your wife?
Well, I never started.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know that trick question.
You invented it.
Shh.
And what you been working on?
Just finished. Well, it was like last month. I finished the Rick Springfield album. Finished mixing that.
Oh,
That was
Jesse's Girl. I heard that on the radio. I heard Shaun has a Sonos system here, and I heard it on that. And I was actually using the restroom, and I had to stop. It's such a great song.
I didn't. Growing up in England, maybe that song was probably a hit over there, but I didn't really fully understand. And I come here, and they sent me
It's perfect. It's a perfect rock pop song.
Yeah, they sent me a song to mix, and it was a mix-off. It was like all these different rock mixers were mixing it. So I was kind of nervous because I saw who he's working with him. CLA had done all this stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get this, And I put up the rough, and I'm like, this is really good. How am I going to beat this? And the only thing I could hear was like, maybe make the drums just a bit more aggressive. And
Was it Jesse's Girl?
no, this new album.
Oh.
And I pull it up, and the guy is an amazing guitar player.
Yeah, underrated. I think he was a soap opera star in Australia, wasn't he?
No, I found out, I did the old Wikipedia research, I thought I better find out about my client a bit more beyond just what I knew. He had a record deal as a teenager in the 60s and had hits.
Wow.
And in the 70s, he was like a rock star in Australia. And then he came over here, was a rock star and a soap star and a movie, you know, and he's had, I thought it was just that one song. And then I find out he's got 5 platinum albums in America.
Wow.
Who knew? Anyway, the album's fantastic, and not for what I did, but because the songs are really, really good, and everybody we know and respect is playing. Of course, Tim Pierce is playing on every track, and Melting Your Face. I mean, it's just a great album. So I was very blessed.
Tim plays on everything, even though you don't even know he did.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I don't want to embarrass Tim, but golly, what a great guitar player! If you for all you guys that like guitar, check out Tim's work.
Yeah.
I like his tutorials too.
I do too. I learn from him all the time.
Yeah.
His fluidity in the way he plays is insane.
Not just that, but so many tutorials, like Back in Black, they don't play it right.
Yeah.
And then there's some Skinner stuff he plays. He just plays it all the way it was played.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of tutorials, they don't really do that.
Right. Yeah, he knows how to capture the feel.
Yeah.
When he does Hendrix, that's when it makes sense to me. And you could tell, and you talk to him, Hendrix was such a huge influence. You could feel it in his fluidity in his playing.
Where did Tim grow up? I forgot.
I want to say, sorry, Tim, I'm going to screw it up. I want to say, I think it was Arizona, wasn't it?
No joke.
I think it was. I could be on New Mexico. It's definitely, it wasn't here and it wasn't East Coast. I think that's where it was. I could be wrong.
Oh.
I do know that him and, like, his early stuff was him and, like, Bob Marlette and Rudy Scarza. I mean, these guys all worked together.
Oh,
in the
Rudy
early 80s.
Scarza?
Yeah. And
The Cuban bass player?
Yeah. They all, like, knew each other. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, they're all monster. Like, Marlette, famous for doing heavy rock.
Yeah.
Stick him on a keyboard, he's like a jazz player.
Wow.
So all these guys are like master musicians.
Eddie's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a virtuoso keyboard player.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Before they came over from Holland, I guess is where they came from. Yeah. Eddie can play the crap out of a piano. Great ear.
Oh yeah.
One of the best ears since Steve Vai. Steve Vai's got a great ear.
I can believe it too. So what have you been working on?
Today I'm working on this artist named Soraya. She's one of the stars on Empire.
Oh, nice.
And I'm finishing up her album. We get a lot of material coming through here, so sometimes it's hard, like you know, it's hard to remember. But, you know, just making records, recording and recording.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what do you got up here? I see you have a Fab filter going, Pro Q2. What are you working on?
Rafael Fadul is my assistant. We were experimenting with, well, that's too strong a word. I liked the vocal sound and he didn't.
Right.
So he's pulling this frequency out of the kick drum, and to see if I liked it and show me that, because I couldn't hear this. I think I like what he did. We're in the home stretch on this song. It's a cool little song. I'll play a little piece.
Oh, nice. You're on the Autotones. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to hear a voice though.
Oh.
Just let it cease in me and let me. I see everything I want in me.
I like the attack you got. It's nice.
Thanks.
We don't gotta see or speak.
Because I miss that in some modern mixes because we got so used to the sound of an SSL doing that for us.
Yeah.
I miss that sometimes in modern mixes. Everything's so smooth, but I like that because that like grabs you.
Part of that is probably the this old time favorite.
Ah, nice.
Normally we think of it as working on drums. I was pulling for the MJUC, and Raphael suggested this, so we decided to try it. I like it. Then I got Cush's Clariphonic over here, the real one on it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then the greatest de-esser ever made that nobody gives respect to.
I love it.
Yeah, and I just thought this pattern looked good. It's not really doing anything. I just it's just so much fun to sit here and do this. It's like, watch. Ooh. I mean, sometimes you got to entertain yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But you can see what I was trying to do. I was trying to get rid of from here to here, you know.
Yeah.
But I liked a little bit of this, so a little different slow.
I'm just picking up the speed. Ain't no stressing me this way.
Are you finding you're living a lot on the Auratones a bit?
They're actually Dave Hampton makes them. They're ref tones, but they're similar to our tones. They're a little more extension in either direction, so I get a little more top and a little more bottom. I really like Dave and have so much respect for him. And he gave them to me, and I used them. And I thought, oh, it's okay. And I didn't use them. Then I knew he was going to drop by one day, and so I set them back up. And then I just fell in love with them. It took me about 2 months, about a month, and mostly I was using them early on. And this is a way that I use little speakers. I'd like to hear your version, but sometimes you don't want to hear everything big and massive. You want to strip all the bling off and just hear the energy and the emotion and the performance and the vibe. Sure. And that's what these do really well. And so if I can't make it sound exciting on those, then I've lost the laptop crowd, I've lost the earbud crowd. Then over time, I started EQing with them. And now I really trust them. I EQ with them a lot. I'm probably 40 or 50% on the Amphions, and then about 30% on the Ausbergers, and about 20% on these. But you can hear it. You can feel the. I can make you move just with those. So
yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a tool, you know. I think a prudent engineer selects tools that amplify their taste and their skill set, and I like those. These little iLouds by IK Multimedia.
I use them.
Yeah, I had to turn the bass down on mine.
Yeah.
Who turns the bass down on little speakers?
No, I love them too.
Play me a part. Un poquito de cubano, sí.
I like it. I like them, and they're particularly good when I'm checking edits, because the high end's so detailed that if I've got like a quick edit, I can just hit up. You know.
What's your favorite speaker for distortion?
Well, it used to be the NS10s, but I got rid of them because the NS10s were perfect for that because of the mid-range.
That might be my problem. I stood in front of a Marshall stack my whole life until I was about 35 and became an engineer, or 32, 33. So I like distortion.
Yeah. And
sometimes my assistants have to, Dave, you got a little bit of distortion in there. I'm like, oh, great, thanks.
Yeah.
And but no, it's like I think I have pretty good hearing, but sometimes I don't hear the distortion like I should. And
I think I'm the same way. I think I naturally want things to be a bit more mid-rangey and aggressive than, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Fletcher Munson. Yeah. I like the Fletcher Munson people.
Yeah. And I think NS10s...
Well, they brought that mid-range forward so you can see it.
Yeah, it was all like snare drums and electric guitars are just perfect to mix on NS10s.
You know, a teaching moment might be so many people that I know, when they listen to a monitor, they expect flat. So if you got 20 to 20K hand puppets, if you can follow this, but NS10s, you can't listen flat. So at 80, you might be 3 dB down. At 60, you might be 40 dB down. So if you train your ear to hear 60, 40 dB down, you can mix 808s on NS10s. If you expect to hear it flat, you're done.
Yeah. And
so it took me a while to get that skill. And I used to envy Jason Joshua because we'd go to a new studio and he'd have it mastered in like 10 minutes, and it's taken me 3 days. and I got that from him. How to train your ear not to listen for flat, but to listen for what the speaker's giving you, and then translate that back into flat, and pretty cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, do you have go-to mixes that you just reference wherever you're at, knowing how they sound to you? Is there something you keep coming back to?
never my own. There's some, you know, lately I've been stuck on One Dance. I listen to that wherever I go. I think that's a really good mix. I try to refresh my my reference list. I use a plugin called Magic AB. So you can see I'm on this particular song. These are the songs I'm referencing. I love Tony's work. This Jason Derulo, One Dance, BB Rexa, Taylor Swift. I gotta play this for you.
Play it.
I'm buttoned up in these buttons. Omega there, she's listening. Damn, my life is loco. I came from that.
New Will.i.am single. It's an artist named India Love.
Yeah.
And my dear friend Dylan Dresdo mixed it. And he put his foot into it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's really good, really good. I hope it does well. It just came out. So,
Fantastic.
So I got that in there. And I'm a little different than a lot of people. I don't really listen to a song as a reference. I like in One Dance, I like the snare. In Blurred Lines, I like the relationship between the bass and the kick. It's just different things. It's never the song. It's just an element in the song that I think was done really well. And when I hear it on the radio, it catches my attention. So I want my elements to catch people's attention. So I play DJ, and I'll go through all these songs, but real fast, and then I can. I'm not doing a commercial for this, but in every song I've got, you know, a section of it that I like to.
That's a great idea on the plugin.
Yeah. You can see each song I'm trying to get one particular part of the song that I like, and then you can do up to 4 loops per song.
That's great.
$70, something like that. The way I reference is I had little snippets, like 8-bar snippets of a bunch of different songs, and I would load 2 tracks of that into my session, and then I'd bring it up on a separate button. And the gentleman that owns Sample Magic, he sent me a letter. He said, "I think I can help you. Are you interested?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And so he came up with this, and then got a couple of ideas from me, but mostly his ideas. And I think referencing is underutilized and misunderstood. We live in a playlist world. Why not create your own playlist and see where you slot between different types of songs?
Very smart.
If you go to like a couple of the playlists, the popular ones now, you'll see Jason Aldean, you'll see Migos, you'll see Buzzy. What's that guy with the B's and B? Bozzy. You'll see him. You'll see everything. It's not. There's no radio stations anymore that just play one thing. I mean, I hate to say this, but K-Rock is playing dance music. K-Rock is playing hip-hop now. Wow. It's not a rock station anymore. And so you got to follow all these things. And you want the song that follows you to sound worse. So you're not just listening to how your song sounds, but how you react to it. And then we live in an apparent volume world rather than a strict volume world. So you got to figure out ways to get your stuff louder without actually being louder and all that kind of stuff. And correctly referencing can help, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like to, if I thought I sounded like something else, it would hurt me, but I don't mind like having a snare drum affect me the way I heard it on the radio randomly one day, and it affected me that way. I'm like, man, I want mine to hit like that. You know?
Right.
And I think that's the way I do it.
I just when I was in Shaun's room, I went in there and we were listening to his Augsburgers in there, and I went back to albums that excited me as a kid, and it was very exciting to listen to The Wall, and that snare sound I always wanted, because it's kind of it's a disco dry. You hear the bottom snare, and to hear it again on the Augsburgers was pretty exciting. And it made me quite teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Because it took me back to that place of when I was a kid and put headphones on and was just like, what is this music?
Why? And I'm being sincere because
Yep.
we've known each other for a while, and we both acknowledge that we are children of the rock and roll era. You know?
Absolutely.
It hurts me to see rock just fading away, and it's going to melt into jazz territory pretty soon if somebody doesn't do something.
Rock is the new jazz. I've been saying that for 10, 20 years. I hear you.
It doesn't have to be, because rock is the one place where you can easily get so much power and energy to come out of the speakers, but bless their little pointed heads, they just won't give up the old tools in preference of the new tools. So it's hard for them to make records at home. It's hard for them to make records in their bedroom. It's hard for them to accept a good melody, because a good melody is pop. And so they're trying so hard to not be something that they're not anything that the average audience. There's a couple of exceptions, by the way. I'm in love with Greta Van Fleet. And,
Absolutely.
And some people call them a Zeppelin ripoff, and I say, yeah.
Yeah, well, what do you want to rip off? Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And I got a feeling, it's young kids, and they never thought they were going to be this. And I bet their next album's going to be really, really amazing.
It's interesting. You're making me. I was working with Dave Sardi a long time ago, and I did pre-production for Jet on their second record.
No shit.
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks of cataloging everything that was about to go in, so they could do their second album. And the critics destroyed them on their first album. It was a massively successful album. They were like, "You sound like AC/DC. You know, you sound like AC/DC. You sound like Iggy Pop. You sound like all these different things." And it's like, what do you want them to reference? And they were having hits, and they, you know, Roll Ever DJ, and, you know, all these great songs were on the radio, and kids were getting into it. And we came in to do pre-production on the second album.
Wow.
And they were second guessing every move. Oh, are people going to say we sound too much like? And I'm
so
like,
sad.
yeah, it is really sad.
You and I were talking earlier about how difficult it is to be creative when you have boundaries. It's just so much easier to just let your brain come up with anything and then reel those in than to start from a place of confinement and try to expand from there. It's just hard, really hard.
I mean, I think we expect a lot and we want a lot from music, but then we don't with rock, but we don't give young artists a chance. We come down heavily on them, you know.
Yeah.
It's tough. I believe you touched on it though briefly. Melodies, big melodies.
Yeah. Melodies. I mean, what else we got?
Yeah. And I do find some young artists I work with are afraid to write memorable songs, and they say it's too pop. I'm like,
what is pop, really? I mean,
popular.
There's no.
That's what pop is. Popular.
No, it's the only genre that isn't a genre. It's a collection of other genres. You know, like Uzi Vert can be pop, and Celine Dion can be pop, and.
We Will Rock You by Queen is a pop song.
Yeah.
We Are the Champions is a pop song.
Yeah. But it didn't start out that way. You know. Yeah. But yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Hey Jude, I suppose, is a pop song. Na, 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 na. Sing along, it's a pop song.
Yeah. So pop really doesn't have any meaning.
Yeah.
Has no meaning whatsoever. I mean, Stairway to Heaven was a pop song.
It's a pop song, yeah.
And in my opinion, the greatest pop song ever.
Pretty close, yeah. Yeah, depending on what day it is, yeah.
Well, no, there's one better.
Which one?
Freebird.
Oh, okay, of course, sure. You grew up in Florida, yes? Yeah? So
every concert a person should go to, they should just yell out Freebird randomly.
I think they do. It's okay. I think it's covered.
I speak for all artists when I say
I think in a Kanye concert they could shout it.
Oh, they love it. They love it.
Yeah, Kanye would love that.
Yeah.
Or he could do his version of Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, you know. It's okay.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean,
comments and questions below after that one, yes.
Yeah, classical concerts, it's really a good thing to yell out Freebird
really
about halfway through.
Yeah. At the quietest possible moment.
Oh, yeah.
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 So we were talking briefly when I came into the room earlier before we started rolling cameras about some incredible pieces. I see now you have 3 pieces of Marg over here. And
I actually own everything he's got. Shaun has my EQ3, the original NTI, in his room. And then after that came this 500 series over here. and it's the EQ4.
He was telling me about this.
Mm-hmm.
Seems with this K feature and everything, it seems pretty amazing. I haven't had to play with one yet.
Yeah, the way Cliff has designed it, he uses his own equipment, so he realized he was pulling out around 2.5 from a lot of vocals, so it's got a feature where you can automatically do that. And then the signal path, it's not a mod piece of gear without the air band, so you know that's going to be in there.
Yep.
And then you got the compressor, and it feeds into some EQ stuff, and then a limiter. Really well done. The bottom piece, the EQ4M, is probably my most go-to stereo bus analog piece of gear.
Great.
I find it just enjoys sitting on the bus. This Ventura from A Designs, it's Carl, the gentleman that came up with it, is the acknowledged guru of Quad 8 EQs, and this is a recreation.
Are you using it in mixing?
Yeah.
What are you putting it on?
Everything. It shines on drums. It shines on. Well, there's different uses. The high band sometimes works great on just for a little color on a vocal or an acoustic guitar, which I don't think I've mixed an acoustic guitar in 3 years, but when I do, I'm going to use it on that. The low end is sweet on bass and kicks.
Great.
It'll just make a kick drum jump. It'll just make a snare jump. There's just something about it. And it's got a mic pre in it and a high impedance input. But sometimes the mic pre just by itself adds a color that I love. I guess it's the transformer or something, but it's really musical.
I have used some of his stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what else are you? What's that second one down underneath the
This?
Eventide? Yeah, what's that?
It's called a Better Maker. It's
Oh, I know.
it's a gentleman named Marek out of Poland designed it, along with this new limiter, which is pretty amazing. And the interesting thing about this is it comes up in Pro Tools as a plugin.
Oh,
it
fantastic.
looks just like this, and I can control this from the plugin, or I control the plugin from this. And when I turn the system off and turn it back on, it automatically gets reset, so I don't have to document it.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, it's heaven on earth. You have no idea how many songs I've done.
There seems to be a lot of amazing stuff coming from Poland because Wes, Wes Audio have the Mimas system. Same idea, SSL. They're doing SSL and 1176s that are USB controlled as well with plugins.
A plugin company called Melda. They're from Poland too. In fact, they're doing a lot of coding in Poland right now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, my wife's Polish.
This is neat. If you yearn for the days of an SSL, I know you have one, but Jeff Terza over at Overstayer came up with that, and it's actually the prototype, but it just gives you that SSL sound. It's really good, and more. That's not the only thing it does, but it's hard to describe what it does. But I like it.
Is that when the red light just stays on a little bit too long, and you're like, oh, I like that. It kind of goes. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, you know this for a fact. About once a week, they'd have to replace the meters on my SSL because they'd start out like this and they'd end up like this because they just park over on the right.
Yeah.
My dear friend Ed C. always says the redder the better.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work in the digital world.
Does not, no.
Yeah, but it just gives you some color. You know what? Tell me if you've been doing this. Lately, I don't automatically reach for an EQ when I need EQ. I might reach for a saturation plugin that gives me that same frequency, or a tape emulation or something.
I agree.
So if I need some top end, I I might use like the center knob on Eddie Kramer's tape machine is just a great top-end EQ. You can take a harsh tambourine and dial it back to smooth, or you can take a dull sound and dial it up just with that one little knob.
Sure.
And
I always felt the Mac DSP analog channel was good for that with the bias.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, anything Colin makes is great.
Anything Colin makes is amazing.
But I think with the tools we have now, out of respect for the analog world, we did get a lot of color from a lot of different sources. And sometimes when we're mixing in the digital domain, I think we have to think about ways to EQ with saturation, enhanced harmonics, whatever you want to call it, coloration, everything but the word distortion. Distortion is, I wish it was called something else, because you think of the Elephant Man, and it's not. It's a rich collection of harmonics. They can be even or odd, and even harmonics work good on music, odd harmonics work good on percussion. And like, let's say I got 150 tracks, I might on 10 tracks pick some things to just massage with saturation rather than EQ, and I'm real happy with the results. It's a different type of thing. It's a different type of thing. Saturn by Fab Filter works good. There's just so many things.
You were talking earlier, and I agree, the MJUC, I think, is a little diamond in the rough. I mean, it's 27 whopping dollars, and I'm not sponsored. They're just, what an amazing plugin.
Yeah. I like Klanghelm. That's the company. You know what?
Because I just think about because the saturation that you can make dark or bright. Because one of the problems with some of the saturators is they always grab the high end first.
Yeah.
This one you can just
Those kind of tools that we have now, a lot of those are coming from little small one-man companies. DDMF, Boz, some of those types of companies are creating great tools. When I was 100% analog, I would use like $50 reverbs, and Maserati hit me to this Ibanez SD or R1000. It was a guitar reverb. It took a nosedive at 4K. It's a guitar reverb.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and the damn thing's made by Sony. Yeah. And I use that on percussion on everything you ever heard me do. And then I had these things called the SE50s by Boss, the same guys that make the
pedals.
Yeah, these little guys. And this is new. This was 40 years old. It was so odd because a lot of times the compliments I would get would be on the cheap stuff.
Yep.
And when everything's expensive sounding, nothing sounds expensive. The human brain works by comparison, not by studying individual things. It's like face recognition software. It's all there, and it just compares things, you know. And so I'm always looking for that little advantage, that little color, be it a piece of analog gear or a plug-in, that does give me that unique sound, you know. And
I always loved Elise's stuff. The Elise's like microverbs and the quadraverbs.
The microverb, by the way, if you don't know, is about this big.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest sounding reverb when you want an inexpensive reverb.
Yeah.
And by the way, it feels to me like it's hard to get cheap sounding reverbs in the digital space.
Yeah, I agree.
You can get unique reverbs by going to some of the DAWs, like Logic has a great reverb. Fruity Loops has FL Studio has a unique sounding reverb. Ableton Live. I wish you could buy those reverbs, those three I just mentioned, and use them in Pro Tools, you know, because Pro Tools is my favorite mixing environment, obviously.
I think one of the things that I've felt for a while now is that when you and I started making music, there was this sort of like echelon of lexicon and all of this great equipment. Same with instruments, you know, there was Bosendorfers and Steinways, and you made music.
Pauls and Strats.
Yes, exactly. And we didn't, as kids, have Bosendorfers and Strats and Les Pauls and lexicons.
No.
And so we kind of made do. But now in the virtual world, everybody has that for nothing. You know, they can just open up sessions and for hardly any money at all, you like have access to the world's greatest piano sound, the best reverb from the best hall in Vienna, the concert hall of whatever. And so what's happening is the cheap left of center weird things are getting marginalized, but like you're pointing out, they're exciting because everybody's piano now is a Bosendorfer.
Yeah, and I'm a big supporter of the democratization of music. You know,
Absolutely.
It's really expanded the quality of what we can get. It's really expanded the quality of the crap too.
Absolutely, yeah.
and turns out the labels didn't do such a bad job of filtering out the bad stuff, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And now you got to work a little harder, but to get above the noise. But boys, there's some great stuff out there.
There is some amazing stuff that gets a little lost in the ether, I suppose. But I think getting back to what you were talking about with rock artists, I just want to encourage anybody who's watching, just make it about the song. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, when the song comes last to the production or, you know, whatever it might be, whatever it is, if the song's last, then you're not going to win. As the old Quincy Jones, what is it? What's the Quincy Jones quote? There's three things important in music: the song, and the song.
My favorite Quincy quote is always leave a little room in the studio for God to walk in.
Yeah.
I was just thinking though, you know, maybe rock isn't as bad off as I thought, because Portugal the Man's doing some good stuff. The Killers are doing some good stuff. I happen to be a big 21 Pilots fan.
Yeah, I think Neil did an amazing job on that.
Yeah, Radioactive's still one of my favorite songs ever. Spectacular use of limiting on that song.
He's laughing. Has this been a discussion, a long-term discussion?
Well, what's interesting about that song to me is that you never know where a creative tool and a creative moment is coming from. And as a mix engineer or an engineer or any kind of creative person, the minute you get dogmatic about a particular technique or concept or piece of equipment is the day you become completely and totally irrelevant. And you have to be, in my opinion, receptive to things that are done differently than the way you thought they should be or the way you were taught. And that song has some unique things that when I first heard it, I thought, wow, that's not right. And then about the third or fourth time you hear it and you go, this is amazing, you know? And it's those idiosyncrasies that helped it be the most streamed song on Spotify that year, and you know, one of the biggest songs of the decade. It's really hard to do, Warren. It's really hard to just wake up one morning and toss everything you know in the trash and try to do something unique. It's damn near impossible, but the beauty about popular music is it's a moving target, and give a 3 or 4 year period to go past, and it's completely different. And if you're not receptive to that change and have the guts to just put everything you knew, you're gonna fall behind, you know. And that's what I like about the world I'm in musically, you know. Because pop does encompass so many genres, I do get to work on a lot of different types of music, you know.
That's wonderful.
And like look at trap. 5 years ago, it wasn't in the popular domain. It existed, of course. It's been around for a long, long time. But if you didn't catch on then, you're gonna be at a little bit of a disadvantage now, because it's, you know, a big chunk of the world is 75 beats per minute now, and I think there's some great stuff coming out of that movement. But that's the beauty of pop music to me. I guess there is a place in the world for ADD.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Or ADDHD. I'm not making fun of anybody's ailments, but it's, you know.
No, I mean, so many
Things move a lot quicker today than they did before.
And I think
You're British.
Yep.
Remember, in the 90s and 80s in England, a song would stay #1 for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it was very rarely. It was very rare that you would see a song spend 3 weeks at #1 in England. It was a rare thing because it's a small country, very, very sophisticated audience. They knew what they liked. They knew what they wanted. Things were transitioning rapidly in England from punk to, from the Sex Pistols to the 80s music,
or the new wave.
New wave was what we
Then
called
all
it.
the Manchester
Yeah.
scene in the late 80s.
In America, you could stay,
Sure.
20, 30 weeks at #1. And now that we're in a playlist world, it's back to England again. Like you can see a song drop off your playlist #1 while you're watching it that afternoon,
Yeah.
And is that good or bad? I don't know. All I'll tell you is it means that there's more opportunities for people to get in and be heard. I think that's a good thing. If my song was the #1 that got knocked out, I'd be a little upset. But if I'm the guy that squeezed into #1 at somebody else's expense, I'm okay with that.
I wonder, and I pose this question because growing up, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. Like growing up, 70s and 80s in particular, bands would get gold records and they'd be, wow, we sold 500,000 records. I feel like the 90s spoiled us all.
Yeah.
Because suddenly it became...
No, we can thank Peter Frampton for that.
Yeah, suddenly it was like you'd have a hit and you'd sell 10 million or 5 million albums was pretty standard. 2 to 5 million albums.
Wasn't Frampton the first album to go platinum, the first live album to go platinum or something?
Probably, yeah.
It was something.
But we sort of got spoiled. I feel like we maybe measure not necessarily all of us, but lots of people measure the music industry based on the 90s. And that was a kind of a blip in time when lots of us were going back and rebuying all our albums on CD. So there was that. I was talking to Howie Weinberg. I'm sure you've talked about the same thing. He's like just remastering everything.
Howie.
Remastering everything all over again for digital, like non-stop.
Yeah.
And so we got used to this idea of millions and millions of sales. But I remember reading, it was a few years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, that Loaded by Velvet Underground had just gone platinum.
Wow.
Like it's finally sold 1 million copies in 40 years or whatever. It's like,
wow.
And yet everybody who's in music knows that album and knows how influential it was.
The live album that Lou Reed put out, if you're a guitar aficionado, listen to Sweet Jane. There's 2 guitar players named Hunter and Wagner, and the intro...
Dick was a dear friend of mine.
The intro to that is as good as it gets. It takes you through an emotional journey that, whether you like guitars or not, is hard to beat. I think one of the gentlemen passed away. I can't remember if it was
Dick
Hunter.
Wagner is one of my friends.
Wow.
I wish I'd known that.
That was a seminal record.
Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter, yes. Dick...
He was quite the producer on his own, too.
And the songwriter.
Yeah.
He wrote Only Women Bleed.
Wow.
Which was Alice Cooper's first big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dick was one of the sweetest guys. We did a charity record together for St. Jude's.
Oh, wow.
And he became a really good friend of mine, and we taught guitars, and, I was just like...
He was a big influence on my guitar playing.
Oh, what a player.
Yeah.
I mean, he was...
Just never...
Played on everything.
The right note at the right time with the right feel and with the right...
Well, he was Bob Ezrin in the 70s, Bob Ezrin's go-to guy. So if you're not sure who played a solo on a song, it was probably Dick or Steve, because Bob would use him. He played for Alice Cooper. He played tracks with Aerosmith, which is catalogued.
Yeah.
I'm not...
Did he play on Bob's Kiss albums?
I'm sure he did.
Okay.
I remember working with Ace, and I had Dick's autobiography up there next to Ace's. And Ace never said anything, but I do know.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff.
No, I wish I'd known that, because when he only died about 2 or 3 years ago. If I'd known that, I would have introduced you to, because you'd have loved him.
Wow.
He was a total, just a gentle, just such a gentle guy. But he'd had a really bad stroke a few years ago.
Oh.
But he still had the feel of a master. Even though he wasn't shredding like he used to, he could still just play a 3 or 4 note little lead line, and it would just make you weep. He still knew how to play that feel.
Yeah, that's what music's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Make somebody feel something. save them from 10 or 15 minutes of life itself, you know.
Yeah. People love that guy. We were putting together a band to tour with him.
Uh,
Leland Sklar was going to be the bass
wow.
player.
I
Danny
just saw Leland at the Tech Awards
I just saw him, yeah, outside there.
playing with, what's his name? Oh, man. Speaking of what's his name's guitar player is David Lindley, who's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. I love David Lindley. David Lindley is the most unique human being on the planet.
Never met him.
The live version of Run on Empty, that's David playing lap steel through some little, he loved little weird amps and little weird guitar things, and that you've heard the slide work on that. It's him playing the amazing stuff.
That was a huge song.
Yeah. So how deep into the digital world are you now? Are you
I'm still hybrid. I'm still hybrid, but it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I know that that Bruce has finally got behind what are they called? The Tangerine, the company that so they're basically replacing the old SSL computer. So and now that Bruce is behind it, it makes me
You talking about Bruce Millett?
Yeah. You know,
Okay,
and so if Bruce is endorsing it, then I think, well, it must be real. You know, he's always very skeptical of new stuff.
Well, he was one of the pioneers at
at SSL, yeah. So that means I could get rid of my computer, which takes 8-inch floppy disks, which is just yes, and you know, now have everything completely integrated with Pro Tools.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's a tough one, you know. It's my electricity bill is like $1,500 a month to run an SSL. It's a lot of money.
You gonna laugh for me? I can't laugh on camera.
You can laugh at that. It's crazy. You know, where the gear in this room is probably like $50 a month. You know what I mean? It's like,
probably.
Yeah. So it's there's definitely that to take into account when I think about it. I suppose, and I'd love to ask you this question because.
Wouldn't that be a good time?
Yeah. What's the transition? Because I just talked to Mark Endon about it. You remember Mark was 72 channels, 9000J.
Yeah.
And now he's all in the box.
Yeah. I'm not the kind of person that champions a process.
But what was your transition? Because even when I went to your website a couple of years ago, it said mixes on an SSL, even though you were past that by then.
Some of that might have been not accurate.
Yeah, but you definitely did do it.
My thing was, I was at Larrabee off and on a total of 20-something years, and big SSL user, and I've always maintained that I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't use the tools that I thought were the best tools for me.
Sure.
So around 2010, I started doing box mixes that I knew was better than what I was doing on the console. I didn't want to give up my ability to be in front of a console. When you're sitting in front of a console, you feel like a king, and client comes in and they ask you what all those knobs do, and it's the visual of it I got seduced by just as much as the sound of it.
Sure.
And then I started spending more time doing vocals inside of Pro Tools, and I'm still running stuff through a console. And then I started spending more time really getting into details that I just couldn't do on a console. And the denouement, to speak French to you, was we were printing the sessions back into Pro Tools because of recall. We didn't want to have to keep something on the board for 2 days. We just print it back into Pro Tools, and then Pro Tools would sum it and send it back out. And so now I've got a ready-made comparison of my summing through the console with my box thing. And around the HDX card, around that time, and then when we went to Pro Tools 11, it was game over for me. I couldn't beat what I was doing in the box with everything at Larrabee. Now that's me. I listen to the stuff that comes out of Larrabee, which is Jason Joshua and Manny American, and I'm jealous and envious, and you know.
Was Jason mixing on the SSL still?
Yeah. Well, I don't. It's weird, you know, because
Probably hybrid.
Well, tape is non-existent now. You know, it's very, 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 very unusual. So I don't. Whatever you want to use, if it enhances your creativity and you're comfortable with it, by all means, please use it. And I still use a lot of my analog outboard gear. I do miss the console sometimes, but I've been using this thing. Probably, Rhett Lawrence taught me Pro Tools in the mid '90s. So I've been using this for 20 years. I don't think about what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's when you thinking is an enemy of creativity. When you start thinking, then you're done. And what we loved about our consoles was we never looked at a number. We just walked up to it and turned it, and it sounded good. We stopped. And
Sure.
if you looked at my console on a stereo, there might be different numbers. I didn't care. I mean, I'm just turning knobs till it sounds good. And that's when I got to that point with this. That's when I really, really felt comfortable in the box. It took me a while. It took me about 12 years.
No, I understand. I have that same conversation with people. I'm like, if you're looking at the screen or you just need to be listening. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think everybody does it differently.
Sure.
There's just creativity is just a fickle thing, you know. Substitute the B word for that. This recent edit that you just saw, if you're watching this, was that a digital bowel movement or an analog bowel movement?
It was hybrid.
Okay.
Hey, put on
So a little on the floor, a little.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I put a good crossfade in there.
Okay. Ask me a good question now.
A good one. Oh, God, can we find some good questions to ask him? I think, when I watch your videos, we were talking about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
People love it and gravitate whenever you start getting into detail stuff of plugins that you love and what you use them on. I mean, because really we do live in a more technical world than we've ever done because of the information age, because we can just find anything. And so I love knowing what you're playing with now, what's new, because everybody's coming to you and going, this is the new thing, what do you think? So you're sort of the first point of call for so many of us.
Always remember, anytime you watch anything I do, it's interactive.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a possibility I make a mistake somewhere along the way.
I do it all the time, I hear you.
Yeah. Sometimes my best one was I said, it's at 220, the octave. No, I said it's at 440. The down from that's 220. The octave down from that's 100. And I wasn't thinking about what I was doing, and I got creamed about that.
I just did a side chaining video on a compressor where I forgot to engage the side chain. So it was just directly compressing it and not using the side chain.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I've shown EQs that weren't actually engaged.
Yeah.
And I swear I heard it. It sounded good. I wish you could have been in my head.
I think, but that's part of the process. I always make that joke.
Yeah.
There's, Jack's the one that did it for me. Because I was interviewing Jack early on, maybe my second ever video.
Jack is the greatest person.
Yeah, he's so humble and just everything. Yeah. And so we're sitting there and he's like, and he likes to bust my balls basically. And he's like, so what do you call your show? And I was like, it's called Produce Like a Pro. He's like, why? And I was like, whoa, this is my second or third video. And I'm like, well, I just didn't, I had some lame excuse. And he goes, I hate professionals. I hate experts. I hate the professionals. He goes, when I was making records with Aerosmith and Toys, and we were in a house and we're throwing mics up, and I'm making albums with John Lennon and all this kind of stuff. He goes, the professionals were the ones that are coming in and going, you're doing it wrong.
Well, especially if you're trying to mic a rat. I'm sure the professionals would have come down on that.
No professionals would have done that.
So look up that story. It's a great story.
But he's right. I
100% right.
I screw up all the time, but we all know, all those great records we love were lots of mistakes.
And I've made great records with mistakes in them, Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I never made a great record. I made records I like.
No, we talked about Beautiful, about how the
Well, that was
headphone
intentional.
bleed.
That was intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though it was intentional,
I made BuzzFeed though, you know,
right,
of 10 songs, there were 5 songs that had mistakes in them. But
right.
to their credit, they did print my quote. I don't know where they got it from because they never consulted me about why I did it, and it was intentional.
But ultimately, it's like the experts would have said that you
would
shouldn't have done
understand
that.
this. A lot of people in today's world wouldn't understand this, but when you and I were kids, we would disconnect one side of our mother's stereo so we could listen to just the other side, and you'd listen to try and hear one of the Beatles, like George, breathing, and you try to hear this flaw there and this flaw there. And those were the little things that caught my imagination and probably led to me being an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we first did Beautiful, Linda had programmed drums, and Christina sang it to programmed drums, which there was no need for them to stop at any point. But then when we started the final mix, I had real drums, but Christina's headphone bleed had the programmed drums in it. And so I asked her, I said, I want to leave that in. I think it's cool. I said, we're gonna get slammed all over the place for it. This is a song about being who you are and being happy to be what you are. And those were the things when I was a child that I just loved those kind of little things, that I'd find them on a record and I'd play it for all my friends. And it was my opportunity to pay homage, however you say the word, to my childhood. And so that was the impetus behind it. I probably should have not left it in, but you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely. I remember reading about phase and polarity.
Yeah.
And not fully understanding, but finding out that you could flip polarity. So I went to my parents had a Sony speaker that had a left and right thing that you could do this on. On the balance. My dad is a classical music buff, so all we ever listened to at home was classical music. And so I figured out how to flip the phase, the polarity on one speaker, and then put the speakers on top of each other.
Wow.
And there was that cancellation. And then suddenly you're like, on Bowie, you're hearing like a plate that you didn't know was there. You got like all the reverbs.
Or a little distortion.
A little distortion, all this stuff. So I didn't know anything about what I was doing, but it was just hearing, like you said, hearing some of my favorite music in a different way and discovering things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those imperfections, whatever they might be. I mean, there's a quote with Paul McCartney, isn't it? They said they would do 5 takes, and the one that felt absolutely amazing but had one mistake must be the right one. Like,
yeah. Music is such an interesting concept because perfection is probably the worst thing that a musical piece could have, because if things aren't moving sonically, the brain gets bored. I mean, the ultimate boredom is just a sine wave, you know?
Yeah.
You can torture somebody with that. So mistakes and movement and you know, like, ask any of my assistants. I've got records out there where one side's a dB louder than the other for the whole song, and people will listen to it like that. But you know.
All right. So here's a good question then for me that I'd like to know.
Good.
If you've been given, because look, I'm friends with quite a few, you know, producer songwriters these days, and they're building a lot of stuff in laptops, and they're doing a lot of copy and pasting. And it's a necessity. They're in a room like this, and they're writing and producing the track at the same time. They have a loop. They go, bah, 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 bah. They put it across.
Nobody's in a room like this. This room's special, but go ahead.
A room like this, but not as special.
Okay, good.
Okay. Maybe Shaun's. So
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
And so they're writing and producing the track. What are some of the things that you find you're doing to take maybe that copy and pasted loop, that keyboard part that is identical in every chorus, that background that's flying? And I know we talked about it when you and I did an interview on your show. You were talking about adding like 1K on a kick drum in a chorus. If the drummer wasn't actually digging in harder, it could actually make it feel like he really was. What are the sort of things that you do to kind of help this song?
Yeah, nothing dramatic. I was mixing a song recently, and I had 2 guitar parts, and I shifted one a few samples early and one a few samples late, and the whole song just came alive. The main thing is to think about trying to keep the listener fully engaged by giving him something new to assimilate every 4 bars if you can. But when it's distracting, it's not good. But when you feel it, or it's subconscious, or not subconscious, I don't like doing that, but I like to hear it or mute it. But some techniques are you can vary the EQ. You can automate a plugin that there's a couple of plugins out there that Nugent makes one that I like, that you can pan certain frequencies. So maybe you've got a bass and you can pan the 200 a little bit to one side and the 400 a little bit to another side, and then maybe you can move those frequencies up and down, or maybe you can move them left and right, but in a way that's musical. And then auto panning some stuff. Michael Brower just came out with a new plugin that's spectacular for moving stuff around. And
Who did you do that with?
Waves.
Waves.
Yeah, it's I think it's really underpriced. I've seen it for like $29, haven't you?
That's great.
I love it. You remember the old Cyclotronics, the Cyclopanner?
Yep.
Diatronics, is that the name?
It's
an extension of that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that one came out on UAD recently, and that used to be my go-to. In fact, in order to make things wide back in the analog days, we'd actually stop it in a place where it was wide, and then use that to widen things. Just think of anything that's musical, that fits the song, that allows a change to take place that you can hear. I'm a big fan of dropping out different instruments at different times and bringing them in at different times, and when they come in, have a slightly different panning or whatever like that. Just anything to keep me interested and hopefully keep the listener interested. But the tools that we can use to do that are, if you're in the box, or even if you're using Pro Tools as a tape machine, just automate some things. Automation in the digital world is a blessing and a gift from the music gods, and use it.
I agree. I mean, do you remember when you were forced to, on tape, you had to mult. So you bring in the vocal and you'd mult it to 3 different places. So you could have 3 sets of EQs. This is the 10. Here's the verse sound. Here's the chorus sound. Here's the bridge sound. And here's the different compression.
10 different things.
Yeah.
And you'd play it like a piano.
Yeah. Now you can just do it all in one channel, ultimately.
Yeah. But it's a great question, and because it's so song dependent and such personal taste required, it's hard to give you specific examples, but just get started trying to be an average listener, you know, and the little speakers are really good for that, because if you can hold your interest for 16 bars on those, you got something, you know. A new favorite plugin of mine is Endless Smile by Dottle Life, the guys that made Sausage Fattener. You have to get a VST wrapper because it's a VST plugin, and to run it in Pro Tools, you need a Blue Cat Audio makes one, and DDMF makes one that allows you to run VSTs. I actually got a compliment from the producer. It's a EDM thing. It's like a riser, so you can take a sound that's like da and make it go, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But much more sophisticated than that. I use that in a little breakdown, and $29 plug-in, and I got a compliment on it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, all I was thinking was, I'm gonna lose the listener here. I'm gonna lose the dance floor here. You know what I'm saying? I think that if you're creative enough to write a song and produce a song, you're creative enough to think of ways to add movement to things. It's just musical movement, really, is all it is. What do you do?
You know, same sort of thing, I suppose. Randomize.
Uh-huh.
When people give me like really obvious MIDI drums, for instance, in rock and roll in particular, I'll take a delay
Mhm.
that's not in time with the drums
Mhm.
and put it like this loud and probably trash it out so it's like a just so things feel a little wrong and it messes.
Kind of like a slap. An old
Yeah.
school slap is not quite in time. That
Not
kind
quite
of
in
delay.
time exactly, but with
Would
a
you go? Would you go farther than an eighth or a
I
quarter?
would go a couple past, yeah. I go past. I could stay in an eighth or a 16th, but just bring it underneath so it starts messing with the beginning and the ends of beats. So not
Okay.
everything is like. So it's maybe like it just flams it.
Oh, what
ever
a
so
great
slightly.
idea. Did
Yeah,
you write? Hey, did you write that down? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's things like that. It's funny
Yeah,
because we were
that's a
talking
great
about
one.
we were talking about reverbs. I was thinking
Mhm.
I really like the Valhallas. I think the Valhalla reverb
Can't beat it.
is ridiculous.
Everything he makes.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Ubermod is like a course and delay in itself.
Yeah,
I love Ubermod. Yeah.
but what I'm
The
finding
best $50 you'll ever spend. I mean,
Yeah,
gee
definitely.
whiz.
and I'm finding now though I can go to a stock Avid like plate
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just and you can obviously within a plug-in you can EQ, you can do this, that, and the other. But I kind of like just putting things before it now, like I'll EQ going into it.
Mm-hmm.
So and do the Abbey Road trick, we take the bottom and the top off. But now I've started taking the bottom and the top off and then putting a distortion. Sorry, saturation because we're not allowed to say distortion. I forgot. A saturation
You
going
Elephant
into
Man did okay.
just because of exactly what you were saying earlier. We're
Yeah.
talking about that everything is available and everything's so
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
that I want to sort of mess it up just a little bit.
Yeah. And we have the tools to do it. Why
Yeah.
not? But
I mean, you remember the days when you would go to even probably Larrabee,
Mhm.
even at its height, you
Mhm.
probably only had 5 digital reverbs, 2 digital delays, maybe a chamber or a plate. Now you could have
yeah. Well, it's Larrabee, so I had access to the rental company, but
right,
your
but
point is 100% well
yeah,
taken.
you'd go into those studios, you'd have
Yeah.
5 auxiliaries or 6 auxiliaries on your
Yeah.
console, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, wow, I've got 5 reverbs.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Everything can have its own.
Yeah. And you can automate the reverbs
And you can
too.
automate them, yeah.
I do like to use multiple reverbs in a song, multiple delays, different tempos and stuff. Lately, I've just been on a quest for crappy reverbs, and it's really hard to find crappy reverbs. They all sound so good,
Yeah.
Even the crappy ones sound good. It's really hard to.
Mark Ender told me he just took all of his reverbs and delays and just modeled them all of his hardware.
Wow.
So he just has, because he was transitioning from the 9J,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just like, how can I get this sound? So he overdid it at first. He like emulated
Don't
everything.
we all? Don't we
Yeah.
all?
He said he built the summing box. He made everything just so it was like basically an SSL.
Mhm.
And he's moved, and now he doesn't come out of the box at all.
It's seductive.
Mhm.
It's seductive. I still come out of the box.
So where are you going for reverbs?
Yeah. This little guy here is my favorite vocal reverb. He wasn't looking. I was inspired by Mick Gazowski, and I used to love Mick's vocal sound, and so I found out he used a 2016. So sometimes this little guy works, sometimes he doesn't. And this is one of those times, and you got to talk pretty to it, and you got to play with it a little bit, and I can usually get it to work if I mess with it long enough, and then I print it.
Yep.
And it's one of the few reverbs I haven't been able to emulate. It's an Eventide 2016. There you go. It's working, kinda. But I use that a lot, and then of course the EMT 250, the real one over there.
Yep, the R2D2.
The UAD one is actually really, really good. Really,
really
really
good?
close. Yeah. I probably use that more than that one. But I've been talking to UAD
About modeling that.
about modeling that, but I don't think enough people know what it is.
Well, maybe they'll start to.
It's just one of those things that just sits in a mix, like it's just, I don't know, it's just heaven. Altiverb just came out with some impulse responses for it. It's actually pretty good. Nomad came out with a thing called an 80s reverb that I like. It's not a quality reverb, it's just a great sounding
Is it a
reverb.
480L?
It can do that, but it's not. I think its strength is like non-lin reverbs and MIDI verb and some of those kinds
Sure.
of things, and I've been using that a lot.
I still have
Matrix I use a lot.
I still use a quadriverb on a kick drum.
Oh wow.
The King's Chamber. It's a preset on a quadriverb, and I just put a little bit in it, and it just.
The quadriverb was actually a good unit.
It's a pretty good unit.
A friend of mine did a lot of the Rod Stewart mixes, and the flanger in there he used on Rod Stewart's voice a lot.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Jason Joshua uses a flanger on vocals sometimes. He does it really well too. Yeah, I mean, this Eventide, I've been using it a lot lately though.
The Eclipse, I don't
The
know.
Eclipse, yeah. The preset I have now is Richer Chorus. That's what it
Richer
is.
Chorus, right.
I use that preset a lot.
Wonderful.
But what else do I?
Are you having fun with the pedals?
Well, I use a lot of pedals to mix with. Always have. Over there by my Grammy, the Sans amp, that's the one I used on Pink's vocal on Get the Party Started.
Great.
And then over here, Bob Horn just gave me this little guy. It's the worst compressor you've ever heard. But good Lord, you put stuff through it and it just comes out unique, you know? And so lately I've been paralleling basses into it. Did we use anything other than a bass? No, we used the
tone corset. I think just by virtue of the fact that it's called a tone corset.
It's a compressor.
Yeah.
And you know, this reverb here finds you can see it's still hooked up. It finds a lot of usage. I
feel like I know that. Oh, the Afterneath Earthen Quaker devices.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I use this is a Tim Pierce pedal that he gave me. I use that a lot. Feel how heavy this damn thing is.
I know. Yeah.
It's signed by Tim.
Yeah, and so it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the J Rocket. Yeah, it's a great pedal.
Joe Barisi gave me this.
Joe is the king of pedals. Let's face it. There is he probably has more than Guitar Center.
So the rule of thumb is if you like me, give me pedals.
Okay, so do you have one in your bag, Eric?
And I will mention you often and often. I actually this is one I toured with. I bought this in
I have the same pedal
in the early 70s. And I have no sense of self-control, so let's say I modified them. I actually ruined some of them, but
I do love the Boss Auto Wire. That's an amazing pedal.
yeah, I use
great for just
there's a company
rhythm.
called Zvek.
Yes.
He hand paints his, and
Yeah.
I use his wire from time to time. I haven't used it in a long time, but it's got the 8 little tiny knobs that you can do 8 different wire patterns. I use that on a lot of stuff. Yeah, on bass.
Amazing stuff.
And I wah-wah'd a reverb the other day.
Nice.
That's with my wah-wah pedal. This radial EXTC is my go-to way to get things in and out of Pro Tools. It's a super nice pedal. You can take a pedal, you can flip the phase, you can do the input level, output level. The impedance is perfect, and you can mix it with the original signal, all from this little 500 series pedal.
Yeah.
Great piece of gear.
Radial as a company are amazing stuff.
Radial, yeah.
You could throw it down a staircase and drive over it. It'll still work. Yeah, their stuff is built to last.
A lot of people have never seen this. This is the original HG2. The plug-in is kind of popular, but this is the original.
I've never used a plug-in. Jack has one of those. So
yeah,
I
the plug-in's really well done.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, extremely well done. A lot of my friends in Atlanta throw it on the stereo bus, and you look
fantastic.
Then it's my little Shadow Hills. I don't know if you can see it, but
I can see it. Yep.
It's the Pensado edition.
Absolutely.
When Peter gave it to me, I cried. That's how sentimental I am about equipment. Peter Reardon is a very unique individual, someone I like a lot.
I interviewed him a couple of years ago at AES. I feel like he's the. I mean, he was so well dressed. He was like so well appointed and so well dressed. I was like, you're more English than I am.
When he first came out with that amazing compressor, you couldn't just get the manual. You had to go through a series of tests and questions, and if you answered them right, you got the manual. If you didn't, you didn't. I mean, you gotta love him. And then he bought a carving machine just to make wooden art cases for some of his pieces of gear. I mean, you gotta love a guy like that, right?
Yeah.
You know? And
he's all in.
this year at NAMM, he was like showing me some new carvings and stuff, and the gear that was inside it. You just know someone that's like that. That all that flavor is coming through the gear too.
Absolutely.
You know? And it's always more fun to use equipment that you know who made it. You know.
I agree. That's what I think we were talking about off camera about Cliff Marg. Is just like you go to his booth at NAMM or AES, and there's a warm welcome, and it's the family, and it's just you're like, not only is the equipment amazing, but you want to support it because the people are so good.
It's widely known that even if you have Cliff's equipment in the room, you're 10% more likely to have a big record.
There you go.
It has something to do with karma and physics and small particles, and I don't know how it works, but
I can
just
believe
works. It just works. That's how cool he is.
He really is. Now the Amphions.
The Amphions are new to me. I've had them about a year and a half. They're made in Finland, and I'm addicted to them.
Great.
The stand right below what you see is actually an extension of the low end. It's not quite accurate to call it a sub. It just finishes the bottom octave super nice. They give you a little bit of what I used NS10s for. I'm not in any way saying they're a substitute for NS10s,
Sure.
but I couldn't wean myself off of NS10s by going to Genelecs. I had a hard time doing that. I had a hard time going from NS10s to Barefoots. I used NS10s for 35 years and made a lot of big records with them, you know.
Yep.
But Jason Joshua told me one day, if you want to make modern records, you got to start using modern tools. And then I realized he still had his NS10s for another 5 years. But now he's gotten modern himself.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was going to have to.
Was it do as I say, not as I do?
No, I'm just teasing. I love Jason dearly, and so any opportunity I get to tease him, it's my responsibility as a friend to do so. But it was hard. It was hard for me to find something. I went through a KRK 8.
I remember a couple of years ago you had KRKs, yeah.
The titaniums.
Yep.
Then I went through a phase with 6-inch tannoys. And I fell in love with those, and I used a KRK sub with those. And but when I heard the Amphions, it was just love at first sight. Did it take me a minute to get accustomed to them? Yeah, of course it did. I'm blessed because this room is damn near flat, so I don't have to worry too much about selecting a speaker for the room. Like there's some speakers that work better in untreated rooms, and some people's speakers work better in treated rooms. I don't know how to describe it. I'm constantly going between the 3 sets of speakers, and each one gives me different information. Sometimes I'll notice that on a larger speaker, I might be sensitive to the 2 to 3K range, and so I might turn it down a little too much, but I'll go to the little speakers and it won't be there. So I trust them, and I won't turn it down. If it sounds a little low here, then I won't turn it down, even if it might sound loud, that frequency range in these two. And then I use these guys to cross-check frequencies too. And it's an extension of the old car check without having to leave the room, you know. Not everybody has a set of speakers like those, so you have to be careful that that you communicate in the same language with them. And you have to do that with all speakers, you know. You don't want your speaker to talk to you in Spanish and then you got to translate it to English, formulate a thought, and then EQ it based on this, you know, that translation. You want your speakers and you to speak the same language, and I'm so happy with my monitoring system. It's the best I've ever had.
That's wonderful. Makes me think of Dave Jordan telling me about working on Little Golds, the Tannoy Little Golds. He's like, I always knew the kick was right just when it started to fart.
Yeah.
He's like, there it is, it's right.
Yeah. 808s, a lot of people do that with NS10s when it starts to fart.
Right. Like, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, thanks for showing us around. I really appreciate it.
I'm not through yet.
Oh, good. Keep going.
Hey,
Keep
buddy,
going.
Listen, it's not unusual for me to go to your website and check the show out when I have a guest that you've already had, and that way I can learn a little bit about the guest. You're doing great work. You're an asset to the community.
Thank you ever so much.
And I like the fact that you understand the responsibility you have, and we're a special bunch, these guys that we produce and engineer, and you're making producers better engineers, and I'm trying to make engineers better producers. So somewhere in the middle, we should have a couple of good.
Well, you're very kind.
Yeah.
You're very, very kind.
Well, thanks.
You're the pioneer that we all follow. So,
man, I just leaked on myself. I don't know. I don't want to be a pioneer. I'm just a guy that music saved my life as a small child, about 5 years old, and
that I relate to.
Gave me a reason to live, and
Yep.
And it's not a job, it's not a passion, it's just something that fulfills me like nothing else can do.
It's a full way of
doing
life.
it in this room, and the simple fact that other people care about how I do things is just something I don't know how to process. You know, we sit in a cave alone, and to think of tens of thousands of people listen to what you put out there and what I put out there, I can't process that. Who are these people? You know? And so it's a blessing. It's a grace and something that you take seriously, and I do too. And we're blessed.
We are very blessed. Thank you very much.
All right. You too.
Thank you ever so much, my friend.
Amazing. I'm so happy you came by.
I know. Now I want to figure out how I get a room here.
Yeah, we got to do that. We got the expansion happening, so we'll get you one.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you very much. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Please leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Maybe I'll throw you under the bus and you can ask some questions.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.